right, so welcome everyone to the first ever Kurdish American Medical Association Summit. This is our first conference, first summit or gathering to kind of showcase some of our projects and some of our work. Today, our topic is inspiring the next generation of Kurdish American doctors. My name is Sivan Brawari. I'm one of the student leaders of KAMA. I came in and joined the organization as an incoming medical student several years ago, and now I'm on part of the leadership team. So today, welcome you again. I will be very cognizant of your time, so we'll be moving at a brisk pace. First, I'm going to introduce KAMA a little bit. Then we will have two members of our advisory board, two physicians, kind of make some introductions. We'll have our guest speaker, Dr. Gazi Zibari, which we are very proud to have him. And then we'll have some student experiences from students at 3 different levels to kind of explain what KAMA is and how it has impacted them. We'll have a community speaker talk a little bit about how KAMA has impacted him personally. And then we'll have a brief closing and then a meet and greet afterwards to kind of meet up in breakout rooms and kind of get a chance to ask each other some questions. All right, so what is KAMA? So KAMA is a nonprofit educational and humanitarian organization started 4 years ago. We are the largest and oldest Kurdish American professional group anywhere in the US. So it's consistent of doctors, residents, students in all aspects, including medical students, pre-medical students, and even high school students. And it's basically an organization to kind of create a network in between all of these to kind of foster a mentorship, hope, and inspiration, and increase the number of Kurdish American docs. So we provide a platform and a network for academic achievement, mentorship, like I said, medical enhancement, and community service. We don't have a large Kurdish American community. We have about 100,000 across the whole U.S. And as you know, most of them are first-generation American immigrants, refugees. So it's sometimes it's hard to find a network and opportunities and even hope for some of our youth that are wanting to go into medicine. So again, we provide mentorship for Kurdish American doctors interested in considering health care careers. We provide public health initiatives to encourage community education in terms of recently COVID, but also all sorts of chronic issues and chronic problems. And we serve the interests of future and current Kurdish American physicians. Again, wanting to increase the supply of Kurdish American physicians, but also to help connect the current ones to provide better support. Here are our board of directors. Haval Kelly, Gazi and Abdullah, and Taha John were the founders several years ago. And we have 2 student leaders, and then we have 3 other student leaders in all aspects and all placements from a pre-med student to residents. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to the president of our advisory board, Dr. Haval Shwaish, and then we will have Dr. Idris. Let me see if I can. Dr. Idris, do you want to speak a little bit about the advisory board?
Yeah, my pleasure, actually. So I probably will wait a few more minutes, maybe until Haval join us. So the advisory board, obviously us, Kurdish doctors in the community, we've been looking for an organization like KAMA for a while to bring all the doctors together and the students as well and create a path forward for our future students. And, we found in KAMA, which was established by the leadership, as you mentioned a few years ago, the organization that is ideal to promote those causes. The advisory board was created over a year ago. This cannot be of any the diversity in this advisory board is quite remarkable. Actually, we all come from different backgrounds, and I'll talk briefly. I know some of those because again we've been friends, we've known each other for a while. So some of the other docs, excuse me if I don't know much of the background, but generally speaking, we all come here together with one goal, which is to strengthen KAMA and bring it to its potential and what it can be for our community as well as for our students going forward. Members, you know that we know well Dr. Haval Shuesh. He is originally from Rojava. He is now the lead intensivist at Tufts Medical Center, and I think he led the Tufts Medical Center COVID-19 response. He's been in the media, the local Boston media quite often for his role in that. My other good friend, Dr. Jamil Bawarjan, as you like to get called, Bawarjan Al-Qaddu. He's actually the chief of endocrinology at the in the Allegheny Health System in Pittsburgh. Again, graduate originally from Aleppo University. Dr. Suzar Abed is also from she I think works at the John Hopkins area in the OB and gynecology. Dr. Raizan Shali, who's an internist in California, and I believe the last member of the board is Dr. Aydur, who is also a pediatrician in the state of New York. So again, very diverse group. We all come from different backgrounds. As I look across these boards, again, knowing the personal history of many of those members of the board, some of them come from, you know, families from backgrounds, you know, this is the Kurdish diversity, you know, some of us are the son of farmers, some of them are the daughters of Peshmerga, and again, we all come here together for one goal. So, Dr. Haval, I don't know if you joined yet or?
Yeah, I'm on, sorry for the delay. Hello everyone. Well, first of all, thank you so much for Kama and especially Siobhan for organizing this great summit. I'm honored to introduce our members of the advisory board. We actually started this advisory board about a year and a half ago in July 2020. And, you know, we have been, I think, productive in multiple categories. You know, one was the community outreach, especially with COVID education. The second, category was mentoring and especially actually kind of starting a program for the international medical graduates. So that's kind of a new program, even though it's small and we just started with this program. We have been, lucky to provide help and guidance for a couple of the foreign medical grads, and we hoping that that program would expand in the future. Third is actually CAM is doing a lot of work with scholarship and providing help and guidance for the pre-med students. So we as a group help and advise CAMA to basically commit these projects. Our group, as Idris was saying, Dr. Osman, is pretty diverse. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Osman again to introduce our special speaker and guest, Dr. Zibari.
Thank you, Dr. Haval, for that overview. It is actually, I think it is my honor actually to introduce the next speaker, Dr. Gazi Zibari. He is perhaps one of the first U.S. Kurdish physicians, along with the late Dr. Najmuddin Karim, the governor of Kirkuk. I think, coming to know Dr. Zibari, I think it's pretty important for us as a community. He gives an inspiration to all the physicians out there and all the Kurdish youth out there who were told that because of your identity being a Kurd, that there are things that you cannot do, you cannot achieve. I think he defeated all of those boundaries, and he went way beyond that. CAMA's role, in this, is pretty important in connecting, such a distinguished professor with the future students. So as I was going through Dr. Zibari's bio, I think we could go for probably 2 hours and we will still not do him justice. But briefly, Dr. Zibari attended medical school at the University of Tennessee. He went on to do a residency at LSU Health Sciences in Shreveport, Louisiana, followed by a fellowship in solid organ transplantation at the Johns Hopkins University. He's And then he has been back to Louisiana, where he has been the chairman of the department. He's currently the chairman of the Department of Surgery, as well as the director of the residency program. Dr. Zibari has authored and co-authored more than 125 articles. This was, again, per data from 2014. I'm sure there's more than that at this point, including co-authoring and serving as the co-editor of the textbook Surgical Oncology, a Practice and Comprehensive Approach. He is also very well known for his role as connecting with many medical professionals throughout the world, mainly also in Kurdistan. We've seen his work with the University of Duhok. He has also served as the past president of the American Hepatopancreatability Association. So I think the list goes on as on. Again, it is my honor to introduce Dr. Zibari. Thank you.
Dr. Usman, dear colleague, thank you so much for this nice introduction and for this invitation. I'm very grateful to all of you for being able actually to put such a dynamic organization together and to lead our youngsters to pursue a career in health sciences. This is a much needed service to support our people community here as well as back home. Clearly, it's a great honor for me to be here with you, and I would do what needs to be done. If you have any questions or if you want me just to go through whatever you want me to say, I'll be more than happy to do that.
Yes, thank you again, Dr. Zibari. Very proud to have you on board and to kind of inspire the next generation of students. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, starting from where you're from and a little bit about your background?
I'm like all of you, of Kurdish ancestry. I was born in a small village in the region of Zibari in Gazi, province of Duhok. I immigrated to the state, of course, in '74 when war started. We ended up in mountain, going to school in caves in the 11th grade. By '75, I was completing my 12th grade in Bamarni High School. And unfortunately, with our agreement between Shah of Iran and Saddam, we ended up immigrating to Iran and in a refugee camp in Zewa in Azerbaijan, Gharbi or Urme. That's where I graduated. We were very fortunate to be among the first group of some 400 Kurds to immigrate to USA as refugee. And it so happened I landed in Nashville, Tennessee, May 1st, 1976. So it'll be 46 years this coming May. All our group, we were about 18 or 20. We made commitment, whatever job became available, we would not say no. You and your like, first job became available, we took it. Within first week, the entire group had jobs. We were studying English at public library as second language. By fall, I was able to go to the Nashville State Technical Institute as a special student. There were about 18 of us. And what was really so impressive that everybody made straight A's or B's, but everybody got an I for incomplete, for English. These students were taking physics, calculus, chemistry, and that's where students, actually the university permitted us to become regular students. Up until then, all we had, a little document from Kurdistan Democratic Party say this student graduated from refugee camp. And of course, they want us to get our certificate from Baghdad, but it would be impossible. So I started in the Nashville State Technical Institute for a year, and then I moved to David Lipscomb to be a pre-med student. Before I know it, within 4 years from my arrival, I graduated almost double major in chemistry and biology, headed to University of Tennessee at Memphis. I chose Tennessee in large part because of the state tuition. It was cheaper and better, even though I was accepted in several medical schools. But I graduated from Memphis in 1985, headed to Louisiana, did 6 years of surgery at Louisiana State University Health Sciences Center, and then moved up to Baltimore, where I completed a formal transplant fellowship at Johns Hopkins Medical Institution, only to return back and recruited by my own mentor to LSU in 1993, and have remained to be here. Went through different ranks, assistant professor, associate professor, professor with tenure, vice chair, director of transplantation, now academic chair, and also residency program director, and I'm director of John C. McDonald Regional Transplant Center. So this is basically in brief my journey from Kurdistan over here. I was given an award by the State Department in 1992. 5 refugees were elected, handpicked from all over the world, and from Middle East, I was one because of what I've done to help other refugees settle in and students and what have you. And 92, I was able actually when I was at Hopkins to visit back to Kurdistan for first time after being in absentia since 75. I assessed the medical situation in Kurdish region of Iraq, and I realized that their facility was pretty solid, like Azadi Teaching Hospital, what used to be Saddam Hussein's hospital, but their shelves were empty. They had no book, they have no medicine, they have no x-ray. Pretty much everything was confiscated by Saddam's forces when they pull out. That's when I started going back pretty much annually, spend a month of time teaching and helping out with our medical community over there. And after the second Gulf War, I was able to take medical community colleagues from the state, and we start building a very comprehensive medical team going to Duhok, Suleimania, as well as Erbil. We opened up the first kidney transplant program in Duhok and Erbil. And now they have done over 3,000 living kidney transplantation. While before this had never happened, we introduced laparoscopic surgery. We helped build a hepatopancreatibular center in Suleimania. I was hoping to move into Kirkuk. In fact, 4 years ago, I visited our beloved governor, Dr. Najmuddin Karim, in Kirkuk with the hope to be able to move into that as well as to Halabja to help out. Unfortunately, with all of that happened with referendum and ISIS and what have you. So this past year, with the year before, with the first time I did not go back. Last year, I went back in June as well as in October. And I'm hopeful to rebuild these teams heading back to Kurdistan to help them with capacity building, teach them and educate them. We have neurosurgeons, we have critical care team. We have Dr. Brikani came with me a couple of times as a nephrologist, trauma surgeons. So we have teams from all over. Actually, they go with us to teach and educate. But that's where I stand right now.
And we, spoke a little bit in the past. What advice would you have for, someone that was, a current student or an IMG to kind of, give them some inspiration and some hope to in going forward?
All I could say that in this country, only skies are the limit. My recommendation, do not take no MCAT or no USMLE unless you are really prepared for it. One of the biggest problems I face and I see, often international students would come trying to get in, and you're looking at their USMLE, they have taken 4 times and last time barely passed it. It's impossible to help such a student. They do not know any better. In fact, I have students who have taken it 4 times that USMLE, and I was trying to recruit them to bring them back to Louisiana after doing a formal transplant fellowship. The state of Louisiana would not license anybody who have taken USMLE more than 3 times. So that's one of them. MCAT, prepare for it. Don't be reactionary, be proactive. Prepare for it in advance, be organized. And I do believe that if I could do it, anybody could do it. There are a lot of great people in this country who would come to greet you with open arms. However, we do need to understand they only spoon feed their own children for so long. We have to be better than locals, and nothing wrong with it. And so what I'm trying to say, we need to work harder than local in order to be very competitive.
Hey, I have, Shivan, if you don't mind, I have a question for Dr. Zibari as well. So Dr. Zibari, many of us here around the room are a little bit younger, and not by much though, and we have children that are going in this up in the state, and trying to get them, I think, growing back overseas in Kurdistan, different parts of Kurdistan, for many of us, if you were good at school, your path was very clear, you're going to go into medicine and you're going to succeed as long as, you read your books and you do what's needed at school. It's different here. There's so many distractions for kids here. There's so many things that can happen. You have 4 children, and I believe one of them at least in medical school. What is the advice that you give to all the parents out there, in the state as to how to prepare their kids for a successful future?
We are extremely open-minded. We tell our kids, you got to get educated. Type of education is up to you. I really don't tell them what they should be doing, not be doing. I have oldest son is graduating in medical school, hopefully in May. The second one is in college. at LSU in Baton Rouge. He is pre-med student 3rd year, and he's preparing for his MCAT. Yet one of my daughter working at the Australian Embassy as a business person, executive type position, while my other one is in Boston actually studying. It'll be graduating in fashion and design. So we don't tell them what to study. However, it's expected of them to get educated, and we do go out of our way to support them. One of the biggest problem I have, I never had enough time to give it to them, but their mom pretty much single-handedly raised these children and committed her life to them to make sure they'll excel and succeed. Don't forget their background, their history, their heritage, and yet take advantage of education and freedom here in this country.
Yes, and that's very, it's inspiring because, a lot of the students, some of them were born here and grew up here. So, and it's inspiring to see someone that, had even more disadvantages and just conquered them and, and then pushed through. Dr. Zibari, one question that I have is, what made you choose transplant surgery? And also, what do you like most about being a doctor and practicing medicine? Is it the patients? Is it more of the community service work that you do or anything else?
When I was back home, I saw that lack of healthcare system was clearly there. And we knew that we didn't have much chance over there. In fact, even as we were studying for high school, I told my brother, why study? We are landlocked in, we can't go overseas. Why not just let us become a Peshmerga and go to fight? And the entire time he said, no, get educated, doors will open up. It's not going to be like this. Sooner or later, you guys will be able to get educated. So I always had desires to be a doctor, namely to be a surgeon. What really attracted my attention when I was a pre-med student at Tennessee, we were given a tour of UT Memphis, and I went through the different departments. We saw this professor who later on became my mentor. He was doing a liver transplant in a dog model. And I saw it in my own eye when he released those clumps, that liver, which is basically pale as nothing, it came back to life. That's what really attracted me to transplantation field. I had a lot of interest in other areas. One advantage of transplantation was that I would not give up general surgery. Now, it could have been a heart transplant or lung transplant or cardiothoracic, but if I would have done that, I would not have been able to do general surgery, and always wanted to go back to health. I knew in part of the world there is no such transplantation, but I'll go over there, teach them how to do liver cancer surgery. And that's exactly what's happening in Kurdistan. They can restrict those liver tumor and what have you. So basically, that's how it caught my attention, and more I got exposed to it, more I liked it. And on top of it, I learned also the cancer aspect of those organs: liver, kidney, pancreas, minimal invasive surgery. Like Friday, I did 2 robotic liver resection and 1 open resection. So it all depends what you're dealing with. But what I like about medicine, and as a rule, in general, we are a student and remain a student in our remainder of our life. The entire time we study, learn, and get educated. I tell my kids, if I go to work and I come back, did not learn something that day, I feel I failed myself. So that's the beauty of it. The other side, in regard to patient, we treat our patient like our families. You have a child who's in an intensive care unit, intubated, on dialysis, in coma. You find them a liver and do liver transplantation. That's one of the most rewarding things you'll ever going through. On the other hand, the sad part about it, we lose patient all the time. And when you lose patient, you feel like you lose a family member. I do my best not to bring that home, but I swear to God, my children can see it in my face. My younger one said that, I'll pray for your patient. But taking care of these patients who are going through a difficult time, it clearly gave me the energy to pursue it even harder and more. That's the beauty of medicine, to alleviate pain of patient, help them out. With God's help, you could cure them. If you cannot cure them, give them quality of life and make less painful for them to spend as much time as possible with their loved one.
Siobhan, do you have a time for 1 more question?
Yes.
No, Dr. Zibari, it's a really pleasure and honor to kind of listen to you and meet you virtually. I'm Jamil Bawarjan, and I have a question for, I know you give great advice for the medical student and even to Idris about how to encourage our kids to pursue education. My question is for the young faculty, even as Idris said, a lot of us not young anymore, but it takes a really great person and special person like yourself to be able to achieve all of this and keep that balance. I mean, really young faculty have a, the buzzword now, work-life balance, and adding to that family, if we're going to pursue academic career or even administrative career in addition to our medicine, adding to that folks back home, family back home, and all of that. How were you able to balance these things individually? And what's your recommendation or advice to us? Is it something you take one step at a time, like you focus on your career now and do something more later? Or how do you really, your advice around that matter? Thank you so much.
It's a wonderful question. I believe that we should not ignore our families. We do need to put our family in front of everything else. As academic chair of department, we always look at burnout faculty who they overdo themselves, demand from the family, demand from the office, patient care, COVID, and what have you. So my recommendation to you, you always find some time to accommodate your children and your family. Otherwise, no matter how successful you are, you have failed your family, you failed yourself. So you got to get that taken care of it. The key is to get organized. I take care of my family, but it may be, like tonight, I'll write down an article later on when kids went to bed and everything is taken care of it. Most of my academic work I ended up doing at night when children went to bed and or in weekend. That's reality, because some of you are in medical field is different. You do your work, pretty much all of it at the hospital. But for surgeons, majority of time you are in operating room running. Honest to God, I don't remember when was last time I had a lunch at work. So I came home and spent some time with my family and what have you, and that's when I get focused doing a project of some sort, but should not be full-time at the expense of my family. If I go back, I probably would give a little bit more time to my children. They have grown up now. Every one of them is out of house. And if I could see them, in the Christmas, Thanksgiving, July 4th or what have you, or go on vacation together, that's basically all I would do. The other thing, I think it's important for us to take our kids, if you could afford it, go back to Kurdistan. And that's what I have done religiously, to take them back, to see what our people are going through, to appreciate what we have over here. It has been a win-win situation. That's why both of my sons want to go to medicine, because they want to do outreach and capacity building. And I do this not just in Kurdistan. I've done it in Honduras, in Nicaragua. We have 2 hepatopancreatibiliary centers there. I've been to Philippines, been to Vietnam, to Egypt. When I was president of AHPBA, I sent 15 teams to different parts of the world. So we could do it. Here you have a very comprehensive team right here in the board. And what I did, I asked every board member to lead a team to a country, a destination. And clearly we did it. We could do that in Kurdistan. We could do it here for our own local community. We could do it in Africa or Central America. But again, you got to give time to your family. You should not ignore it at no matter what the cost is. You got to take care of your family. Otherwise, you will regret it.
What a great question about, trying to, balance, our careers, and they kind of, trying to encompass our lives, but also the other parts of our lives, the family and other things. One last question, Dr. Zibari, is how was mentorship, in your path? How did that affect your path? Did you, because we are, very focused on mentorship here. Sometimes, students don't find mentors, and that's just a function of our community, being so new here and being dispersed. So what was the function of mentorship in your path?
Mentorship is a critical step to get you where you need to go. I was a student at Tennessee. I never lost in touch with my chairman over there entire time. I was in Louisiana. I stayed in touch with him and others. With my peers and colleagues, I was in Hopkins. I bet you have a dozen of those mentors from there whom, whenever I needed help, just think of it. American Surgical Association, the oldest surgical society in this country, is hard like hell for anybody to get in. By having those mentors who would vouch for you, it'll get you where you need to go. I managed to get in large part because having Dr. John Cameron, chair of surgery at Hopkins, for example. I'm having Andrew Klein at Cedars-Sinai. I'm having Lloyd Radner at Columbia. So what I'm saying is critical to have mentors, and you need to stay in touch with them and don't be shy about it. I promise you, I have residents who are very successful surgeons. They call me 3 o'clock in the morning in operating room and they have tough case. And I'm very happy to hear from them because we want our students to excel and succeed. What is better to see a younger one, guide them to go from high school as a high school kid all the way through to become a doctor or become a professional in whatever area that might be. So mentorship is, I take it very, very seriously, and I think it's very critical, being in research, in laboratory, in academia, being in patient care. You always have to have people to lean on at time of need.
Yes, thank you very much. Are there any other questions from the audience? Well, thank you very much, Dr. Zibari. We will go into some of our students, and they will kind of share their experiences and kind of talk a little bit more about how Kama has impacted them. Starting with Kashan Muhammad. Kashan, can you share a little bit?
Yeah, thank you, Sivan. Hello, everyone. My name is Kashan Muhammad. I am a second-year medical student at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. I'm very excited to be amongst all of you today and share my incredible experience with Kama so far. So I joined Kama in April 2021, and I was immediately introduced to the large and growing group of dedicated medical and pre-med students, as well as our doctors and other experts of the healthcare community. And I soon felt how much impact Kama has for promoting the health and well-being of the Kurdish community, through the campaigns, the mentorship program, as well as various efforts in leadership and advocacy. So, what stands out to me and has really benefited me as a medical student is that, Kama does a great job of connecting pre-med and medical students with doctors and mentors of the specialties they aspire to be in and the medical schools they aspire to attend. And because it's an organization that fosters people of Kurdish origin, I was really able to receive a more meaningful guidance that is, more specific to my needs as a Kurdish American in medical school and as a Kurdish woman in medical school. So on a larger scale, Kama has provided my peers and I with a platform to promote health awareness and has changed our efforts, encouraged our efforts towards the prospects of medical advancement in the Kurdish community. For example, within just a couple of weeks of me joining Kama, I led the breast cancer awareness campaign while working with our Kurdish doctors and students throughout that process, all while being of service to my own people. So, with that campaign, we were really able to achieve so much. We utilized a social media campaign as well as distributed community flyers that, provided accurate and up-to-date information about breast cancer. And we focused on breast cancer prevention and early detection. And very importantly, clarifying the myths and misinformation in the community, regarding mammograms and radiation and the causes of breast cancer. So, this is just one example of the many campaigns that are ongoing and that constantly have students engaged in the community. And furthermore, our students have worked on various projects, such as the Preventative Health Education Series. And to name a few that we've campaigned recently, have covered topics of diabetes, hypertension, hypercholesterolemia. And these projects give students the opportunity to learn while we make them, and they're valuable experiences to have under your belt, considering that research is always continuous in the medical field. We then further translate these projects into many dialects of the Kurdish language as well, which allows our audience, the Kurdish community, to understand the information being relayed to them in their native tongue. So, to be in Kama is very empowering because you get to be alongside these passionate individuals about, addressing the health challenges of, that are facing Kurdish communities in America, in Canada, and abroad. And this organization really fosters that collective space for personal and professional growth. And so, that's what makes Kama different from other medical organizations. And personally, from what I've been a part of, is that there's a huge effort for organizing community health outreach and service events, raising awareness about important issues surrounding medical representation, as well as hosting panels and live streams on the health needs of Kurdish communities across the globe, of which we're actually able to receive direct feedback from. So, we're excited to see that Kama is continuing to grow as we dive deeper in enhancing the health of Kurdish people, while we also guide students along their journeys in medicine. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Kajan. That was very inspiring, and thank you for kind of sharing a little bit about what we do. Next up, we have Ahmed Ahmedi. And Ahmed and I were actually went to the same high school. It was Overton High School in Nashville. It was the most diverse high school in Tennessee. So I'm very proud to to have him on too. And Ahmed, can you kind of talk a little bit about Kama and your experience?
Yeah, I'd love to. First of all, I just want to say hi to everybody. I know a lot of you on this call, but a lot of you I haven't met yet. And I really wish we could meet more formally, but this is a really cool summit and a cool way to get to you guys. And yeah, I'd be happy to share. I like to think I will share my experiences because I think you can talk a lot about mentorship, but I think talking about more about how it's impacted me personally will hit on a lot of what I think makes our mentorship aspect of Kama so important. I think Dr. Zibari was kind of hitting it right on the head about mentorship when he said a lot of times you don't really realize the just tangible and intangible benefits you have with mentorship until you've actually sought it out and have experienced kind of like looking back on it. And that was definitely me in college when I got to Wesleyan. So as you guys know, I went to Overton High School with Siobhan, and Overton was a pretty underserved high school. And I don't think I was well prepared at all for college. And it showed. I mean, I was asking questions so much that kids would make fun of me. I remember feeling pretty isolated. I felt like I didn't really have a lot of community. I didn't have an understanding of what I needed to do to go into medicine. I didn't have doctors in the family. Honestly, I didn't know any doctors practicing in Nashville at the time even. And Nashville has the largest population of Kurds. And so for me, I remember just seeing like my peers having such a tight knit circle beyond just their family connections, And I remember when I reached out to Dr. Kelly and he put me in touch with people like Alan, another Ahmedi who was second year at Emory. I would just get, it's like something as simple as calling somebody right before taking my MCAT or before sending out my secondary applications and just getting an idea of, what do I need to be doing? How early do I need to be doing this? What are the metrics I need? And just having the awareness, one, of what it takes, what the path to medicine would take, I think is really empowering because one, you know what you need to do, but then also having somebody who's been there and can speak to their experiences and can kind of help you filter through all the mistakes they made and then kind of give you a little bit more of a clear path of what you might need to be doing. I think helps save you a lot of time. And I think that in an ideal world, if we had enough medical students, residents, and people at every tier kind of giving back to the student and their point in their career before them, like if I had residents I could talk to right now, I think that in an ideal world, like I said, you would have a lot more success amongst Kurdish students going into medicine, one, and then people who are actually in medical school and doing STEP and all that. I think you'd have a lot more successful applicants going into residencies and then on. I have had several people beyond Dr. Kelly just like talk to me and help me out and give me a lot of one-on-one mentorship that I think ultimately, had I not gotten that, frankly, I don't know if I would be in medical school. And so I think that when you talk about what we're doing as a whole, you'll start seeing kind of the greater collective 5-10 years down the road. I hope I didn't talk too much there, but I'm happy to answer what questions you guys might have.
Oh no, thank you very much. And yeah, that's part of the the plan. We have the 28 Kurdish matches into residency programs over the past 4 years. So we've slowly built that that framework to have pre-meds, high school students, medical students, and of course residents and physicians. Next, we have Kizan Muhammad. She's actually a diagnostic radiology resident in the University of Missouri at Kansas City. Kizan, do you want to speak a little bit about your experience?
Hi, Siobhan. Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here today. My name is Kijan Mohammed. I am a PGY2 resident in radiology. So Kama has actually been a part of my medical journey since I was a young medical student. And when I joined Kama, I was actually in the early stages of the organization. And at the time, it was actually the first organization that really resonates with my identity. So just like a lot of everyone else kind of pointed at the sense of community that it gave, it was nice to work with individuals that really resembled me and the values that I had at the time. And so it was nice because, we're a very underrepresented minority. And so we all kind of share the background of first-gen immigrants, first generation college students for most of us. And so that was really great connection that I shared with everyone. At the same time, as a medical student, I actually received a lot of messages from pre-meds and other students who were just asking for help, advice, mentorship, helping with applications. And so this experience really molded me into a role model in a way. And so it kind of became a passion for me, particularly for young women who aspire to not only go into medicine, but also in male-dominant competitive fields. And so at the same time, I use the CAMA platform to also reach out to other medical professionals and seek professional advice. And a lot of the questions that I had were answered, and essentially formed a mentorship and also some friendships throughout CAMA. So that has been great. And when it came to residency, it actually was a great window of opportunity because I even got some interviews. So like for those that are medical students getting ready to think of the specialty they want to apply to and the programs they're looking at, it can really help you get interviews because you have formed a networking community essentially. And so these physicians that are within CAMA can actually speak to your character as a person. And when it comes to residency programs, they can vouch for you. So I think that was a huge benefit that I received alongside many other things such as leadership opportunities. CAMA was really a place where I got to hone in on those skill sets and take on lead roles in projects such as the newsletter, which is something that I do enjoy doing every year. It's a great way that we actually give recognition to the CAMA members for the hard work that they do. And so I feel like it allows everyone to be seen and heard. And so that's really great. Some other perks to that leadership opportunities is now that I'm in residency and I'm taking on other board positions, it's a place where I'm doing well in those positions because of having that experience as a medical student in CAMA. Another perk I would say is that it really helped improve my Kurdish actually, because I enjoyed translating a large content of the educational projects into Sorani. So that was great. And that was pretty much my experience. It's been really great. I look forward to see how CAMA can expand even further and help more of our community abroad and also here in the States. So thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, Kizan. Any questions for any of our students here?
I just want to let both of them who are in Missouri, one of my students is a transplant surgeon, Dr. Nawabi. If you need anything, you need to visit with him. I took him under my arm. Originally, he came from Afghanistan, and I helped him to seek a fellowship in Cedar Sinai, and now he's in Missouri. What I want to let you guys know is very, very critical for those people who are applying from back home. Too often I see a letter, personal statement. They say, I'm from Iraq, I'm from Syria, I'm from Iran. It's sad to say, but since September 11, people of Middle East do not look at it very favorably, especially in southern state. What I do advise them to say, I'm from Kurdistan of Iraq or Kurdistan of Syria or what have you, because Americans have developed really a what you call it, a respect for the Kurds because of Peshmerga, what they have done in their fight against ISIS. So do not include yourself in those countries because from the beginning, they're going to put an X on it. It's sad, but that's true. Lastly, clearly as stated, a lot of people still don't believe females should be in medicine. You know, I go to Latin America, Central America, Southeast Asia, I argue all the time with those folks. In fact, I'll be in New York end of March, attending International Hepatopancreatobiliary Congress with the American Hepatobiliary, and I'm chairing diversity symposia, in large part to promote more minorities, more females in the leadership position. So I think our students cannot have a better time than what you are going right now, because whole nation are actually pushing for diversity and gender equality and what have you. So I congratulate all of you for making headways and succeeding, because you will be carrying the torch of medicine for your people, both here as well as at home.
Thank you, Dr. Zibari, for that. If I could add just a little bit to that. So it actually reminds me of an opportunity whenever I was a medical student and I was rotating on my surgery rotation here at St. Luke's Hospital. There was a surgeon, it was actually a transplant case. It was, I think, a pancreas. I can't remember exactly, but the surgeon asked me where I'm from, and my natural tendency is to say I'm Kurdish, you know. So, and I assumed he didn't know what that was. So I started explaining I was in northern Iraq and this and that. And he was like, "Oh, I know Kurdish. There's a great transplant surgeon in Louisiana." And so obviously Dr. Zibari, so that made me feel very, very proud instantly that they associate Kurds with successful physicians. I didn't even know at the time. And so now that we're kind of, you know, being able to like meet you on this platform is a great honor. And so it's very important to say you're Kurdish. And so that was beneficial for me because he knows me as a Kurdish student now. So.
All right. Any other questions for our students here?
I just have a question for the students and Kashan as well. You know, I'm assuming you heard about Kama through kind of personal connection, or was it more like online, kind of knowledge? Or I would be interested in the way you heard about Kama, and also, it's honestly amazing hearing all the three stories. I do wonder about the mentorship in every stage of the medical career. You talked a little bit about the pre-med career and then the medical school career, but does that kind of continue through the residency? And as you kind of looking for post-residency career, do you guys have kind of experience with that, or do you find it challenging more after you get into med school to get a career? Like, Alain mentioned, if he had a resident who he could kind of ask about medical school experience. I'm just interested if the mentorship is lacking in specific stage of your career so far.
I have residents that I could reach out to who are Kurdish, but I just don't think there are a lot of Kurdish doctors right now. It's sad to say, but I think that's something that's going to change down the road. So I think it's more of a supply and demand issue. I do think that will change over time. And I will say that the mentorship I've gotten as a pre-med was pretty significant. And it doesn't even have to necessarily, like, I think people tend to shy away from mentorship and seeking out mentorship. So the way I got in touch was Dr. Kelly just encouraging me to reach out to other students. He's like, "This is why we have this program, reach out." And I guess I'm stubborn. I've always just done things independently. And I just felt like I could manage it on my own. And then I realized I did reach out to Adnan a few times, and I realized like how just kind of comforting it was to be able to talk to somebody who had gone through the application process and knew what was normal and what was abnormal. And it put a lot of my anxieties about the process at ease. And I, to this day, reach out to Adnan. I was just texting him about STEP and how he's preparing for it, so I can kind of get an idea, because I'm starting to think about studying for that soon. And so I think that there's a lot of great medical school and pre-medical school mentorship opportunities. But yeah, I think Kama is still growing. And I think that it's kind of evident why we're having things like this, is because we want to help grow this and we want to take it into a certain direction. And so I hope that, we can have a lot more of a broader reach and a lot more infrastructure, that 10 years down the road, it's as simple as, we don't have to reach out to other students and shake them and say, "Go get mentorship." It's very well broadcasted. It's very well advertised, and people just know how to reach out to us, and we kind of eliminate any barriers that are naturally there.
Yes, and one of the other aspects that we really, trying to work on is the attending physicians across the U.S. kind of get them, more involved in Kama over time, and that's one of the functions of, a summit like this, is to show, we have these, 40 or so, 30, 40 students, and they're really good students. So, they just need assistance and then connections, So when they go into residency, they don't know a lot of attending. So, every step they know a lot, we have a lot of, pre-meds that know medical students, and a lot of medical students that know residents. But the last step is, we're trying to work on actively.
It would also be really cool down the road. It would be really cool if there were like an annual event of some sort in the future where we can have kind of everybody fly in, or anybody who wants to kind of come out with something, get to like meet up and get to know each other outside of just like, Zoom.
And if I may, a minute, Ahmad, on your point, we decided to hold this virtually, obviously due to COVID, and it was our first go at it. So, but definitely, the plan would be to hold this in person, not only to make friends, also to allow our families, for those who can be there, to get to know each other, to develop that sense of community. Because it's very easy for us to get lost in the big mix of the the America. I think it is great seeing. I'm looking at the participants. We have over 46 participants on active call right now. I don't think for us who've been here for 20 years or something. When I started doing my interviews for residency, there was not a single Kurdish doctor that I knew. But I was helped quite a bit, for example, by the Syrian community. I actually slept at someone's house in Augusta, Georgia. I slept at someone's house in Atlanta, Georgia. But last night, I was stuck at Atlanta's airport, and the first person I was thinking about was Haval Kelly. I was like, hey, if we get stuck tonight, I'm calling Haval Kelly. I'm gonna go stay over. So I think we will get to hopefully meet each other and get to know each other better.
Yeah, and Ahmad, I think to Siobhan's point, I just want members here to know that actually we have a really large number of foreign medical grads who are currently attendings, and I think we can do better connecting those attendings who were foreign medical grads and they did their residency and fellowship here in US, and currently they're practicing with CAMA. I think those attendings could really serve as mentors, especially in the residency, fellowship, and kind of attending career mentoring. It's a bit different for us when we come from kind of foreign med school. We really, the concept of going to medical school and going through that process is very foreign to us. But we do have, really more capacity, which we can, utilize basically when it comes to residency mentoring, fellowship mentoring, and attending career mentoring. And I think there is definitely more opportunity to, connect with the Kurdish foreign medical grads who are currently practicing in US, and hopefully, summits like this and meetings like this will help to, engage those members and get the connection going.
Yes, over time, that's our goal, is just to increase the number of Kurdish American doctors, and we do that through mentorship at all levels. All right, so next we have a brief committee member experience. Mr. Ahmad Bigdaudi got a COVID in April and May of 2020, and he wants to talk a little bit about, just how an organization like this helps someone like him. He was on the ventilator, and, we sometimes might not have a lot of specialists that we know that are, of Kurdish descent or in our communities. But over the past 2 years, we've been doing, numerous live streams, about the cutting edge, updates on COVID vaccines, and from a whole group of physicians, including Dr. Shwaish, as you see, and Dr. Idris. We've been doing campaigns and all sorts of others. So Ahmed, do you want to talk a little bit about your experience?
Yes, hello everybody. I'm very happy to be with you. Doctors, after God, you're our hope. So people get sick, people get in trauma, in very, very bad situation. They have to rush to the hospital to see doctors, nurse. So you are the hope of the people. Thank you so much for your job. Your job is humanity job. Yes, I was sick in April 2020. COVID, first wave of COVID came to Nashville, Tennessee. I was one of them. I was so sick, I put on a ventilator. We are not familiar with this strange signs of sickness, problems. And I have to go to a doctor because I got, my lung got full of what's called double pneumonia. So my oxygen went down, and I have no idea what happened to my family. I was in a coma more than 10 days, and then they transferred me to the different hospital, Centennial Medical Center, and then I think was the April 27 when first time I opened my eye. In Kurdish community in Nashville, we have several nurses and doctors. They was waving to me. They was, before I was in coma, give me more hope, more happiness that I see Kurdish people, Kurdish nurse, Kurdish doctor. So I was getting proud of that. You know, Kama, I think Dr. Kelly, his wife, Kajin, and the Ahmed Clinic, they were in touch with my daughter. She understood, you know, how to deal with this stuff. And she was with them, you know, they have a chatting group with her, and they're asking her my situation. Each time a little different. I think Dr. Kelly and the other doctors, they spread out to the community. Yeah, you have to be careful. This is Mr. Musa is in a coma. He's in danger. Please take caution.
Yes, and yeah, thank you very much for sharing your experience. Over time, we had that were experts in their fields, and especially pulmonary and critical care, to give excellent advice. We broadcast it to our members, to the Kurdish community, and kind of help them have some guidance. Sometimes there's a language barrier or a culture barrier to information like this, but that was really helpful, and the tight-knit community in Nashville really helped with that. So over time, we're trying to, the more connection we have amongst, our physicians, the more we can help community members too, in cases like this. Any questions for Mr. Mosa about his experience? Okay, we will go a little bit into, Dr. Kelly will kind of speak a little bit about our history, and just some of the impact that we've, had and hope to have in the future. Today we've gone through, we've had a guest speaker, which we are very thankful for, and I could interview Dr. Zibari for 2 hours, and it'd be very insightful. And then we had student speakers, we had our community speaker that we're very grateful for, and then we'll just go a little bit about our impact and what we hope to do in the future, and then we'll break out into groups so everyone can meet each other a little bit more.
Yes. Thank you, Siobhan, and the team and the advisory board for hosting this first of its kind summit in America. It makes it definitely much easier to do in a virtual space and bring everyone together. My name is Haval Kelly. I'm a fresh practicing cardiologist in Atlanta, Georgia. And I just want to wrap up the summit by talking about, I think, the history. We left it for the end to kind of show what really KAMA's model is and how it worked. Back in 2014 and 15, over that 1 year, Taha John, who was at that time at Harvard, he was, finishing his, starting his ENT training, and then Kajin Abdullah, she was at UT Southwestern internal medicine, going into cardiology. So we kind of start having a discussion just through email. Hey, there's 3 of us. One is in the West Coast, one is in the East Coast, one in the South, one in the Midwest. How could we come together and create something? So we spent a whole year just discussing the planning. And the first thing we did, we just went to the Iranian Medical Association, the Arab American Medical Association. We figured out how these guys started. Just to give you guys perspective and to understand, the Indian American have the highest, kind of percentage of doctors in America. They make up about 80,000. So think about this, 80,000 Indians, South Asians, especially from India, who practice medicine. Kurds probably have maybe 50 to 100 at that time. 50 would have been a great 100, but we were not connected. So just to keep in mind that we are starting with a very small pool compared to a lot of minorities in this country. In 2016, after literally 2 years of just discovery and planning, we launched a pilot website. And this website was simply saying, here's a Kurdish Medical Association. Here's a way you can sign up to be a member if you're a doctor or a student, and we will see, we connect you. And here is the matching result for that year. So in 2016, we published the Kurds who match in America. Matching for people who maybe not in medicine right now, some community is when you finish medical school, you go into a match, which tells you, where you're going to practice your residency for that specialty. So that was first of its kind. I think we had at that time 5 people who matched. I was like, that's a great big number. So it was a very simple pilot. Let's just see how things go. And then over 2017, 2018, we just created a collective mentorship program. We tried one-on-one. We realized our numbers are small. I'm like, how about we just put everyone in the same group through Facebook messaging or WhatsApp and see if people start knowing each other. We're like, okay, you can look at their profile and see this one is a student, this one is a medical student, this one is a doctor. So we started very simple. and have people kind of be in a community together in one place and ask for advice. And then we create these guidance for application. If you go in and go to medical school, residency, or fellowship, here's on the website how you apply. We just simply put the USM. Sorry for like my kids' background noise. I have a 7-month-old. And then we start something called Pathway Medicine. It was something like, okay, can we interview Kurdish doctors and see like what their journeys are by asking a question? And the purpose of that was for people just to look and see, okay, what's like, like of a doctor to go through medicine. Oh my God, there's a Kurdish doctor who's a pulmonary critical care. And then we started a newsletter by just publishing some of our profiles, on the website of some of the data. And then really 2019 with the COVID pandemic, that's where we saw a rise in our work. So we now pretty much in 2019 start launching the actual organization and working. And what happened is when COVID hit, United States specifically in the world, we realized there's a lot of misinformation. So we started a COVID task force, and Haval Shwais and Dr. Dries Osman were really helpful in joining and connecting us people who are experts in the field. And from that, we started a public health campaign. We started translating things in simple English and simple Kurmanji and Sorani. Out of that, we created the Kama vaccine initiative. When the vaccine came out, we started educating people about the misinformation about vaccine. And that model, working together in these collective mentorship groups, create a model for us saying, okay, now we did these projects during COVID. Can we translate it into something like diabetes or into cardiovascular diseases? And that's why the public health campaign was created. And we realized there are really distinguished people in our group who really are good at leading these projects. How about we start a fellowship program where we plug in these people into a model and work with students to build it? So pretty much we try to construct like a residency program where when a pre-med comes in, they get mentorship for a medical student while they're working with residents and other attendings. And so each one at their level and time, helps grow the people in their group. And over time, they work on projects, and that's what brings people together. And we create these models. Every time we did something, we're like, okay, is it sustainable? Is it focused? And I'll give you an example. In the 2020, we noticed there was rise of, unfortunately, opiate users in certain community. And then we heard about a couple cases of Kurdish members of community die from overdose. And then we find out there was a lot of mental health associated with that. And we find out family did not know how to do CPR when they're watching their kids not breathing. So then we're like, okay, can we take what we learned from these different campaigns and start something? So we had students launch a mental health matters, initiative. And they work with religious leaders to talk about mental health, bring in medical expert and bring actual Kurdish American people who are dealing with mental health, talk about the issue to break the bias. And at the same time, there was a group of students say, hey, can we start a CPR video? So they actually start working on taking an actual CPR video and translating Kurdish, in Kurmanji and Sorani. And that came out of the whole idea of address. So what I'm saying is the collective mentorship platform brought people together to say, okay, how could we take what we have, the resources we have, how we could put it in a model that could be sustained and focused, and how do we make an impact? So the common model, there's nobody more passionate than Kurds. Kurds are some of the most passionate people. I think first, when someone wants to do something in Al-Kama, it's inspired by passion. But the most important thing is it needs to be guided. We need to take that passion and make sure it's mentored by the right people to be effective. And the last thing we focus on really is sustainable. Is what we're trying to do going to be sustained next year? If it's a one-time thing like what happened in COVID, that's fine because we could keep, but can we take that experience and sustain in another area? And is it very focused? And this is, I think, the success model from Kama, if you think about it, from 2014 was a conversation through chat room to becoming to the level where you guys all attending and learning about what the organization have done and helping increase the number. That's really what we wanted to strive for. Just some through the impact, it is technically right now largest network of Kurdish American healthcare profession. And it's important for the network because in American medicine, the second you become, the hardest thing to get into medical school is getting to medical school first. Once you get into med school and you join a medical school, you automatically connected to every resource in that medical school. So the reason why we focus on getting people, because we know that step is one of the hardest to recruit. And plus our numbers were small. So technically right now we have some of the largest network. We started an annual newsletter that showcased the work of members and leaders in the group. Through our streaming process and panel, reach over 100,000 people through our educational projects. And throughout the time, we've been given awards and scholarship to help some of our students and resident with some of their career, and the medical education. Some of the big thing that I think we are very proud of, 100% of pre-med who come into Kama get into medical school. That's something we could proudly say. Everyone who came to Kama and say, I want to be a doctor, we were able to help them to build the application And regardless of the GPA and MCAT, we were able to help people improve their GPA and MCAT by giving the necessary network and resource. There were about 28 residency match that we worked with, and we gave about 7,500 scholarship and award. Again, this is just given the small organization, the small students we have, but we're growing. Future impact is continuing the mentorship program and really making it strong that we will have people who want to go into medicine to find the resources of people who look like them or that maybe come from the same background. And we actually launched a high school fellowship program. Is that we always, as CAMA, start with a pilot and see where it goes. So we started a high school program this year by figuring out what are the Kurdish American high schools who are interested in medicine. I want them to get into that program and start having early mentorship. As we know, every year the medical school application process is getting more difficult because of the number of applicants and not enough spots. We're going to expand our fellowship program that was started by Siobhan. And we have right now currently 3 fellows working with 3 students. We hopefully expand to 6 spots for next year. This is not only provides mentorship people, but also gives people something to put on their resume that we're part of a leadership program. We're going to continue the model that has been working for us for public health education, expand the network to help more students. And we, last year into this year, they launched a very small pilot program and helping our international graduate. The goal with that program is we have two doctors from back home that are getting help by residency by under one rule that those doctors, when they match into residency, they need to take over the program, help the next one. So just like how residency works, and we hope the model will be sustained over time by the people who actually got into. And the advisory board been very helpful in connecting people and getting them interview in places by simply forwarding their CV and advocating for them. So how do you engage in CAMA? We're all busy. I think, time management is probably the most important thing. And when you're passionate about something, we're all passionate about helping our fellow Kurds. I think, we all want to help back home. And I want to go back to Kurdistan and do as much as I want to. But I think it's important to focus on our people here first. Because if we build a strong foundation and have a pipeline that we could get as many pre-med students to go into medicine and become doctors, I think that's going to be a critical foundation to help all of our Kurds from back home who want to come do residency. I mean, it's just, we have to strengthen our foundation and we're slowly getting there. You could join as a member and we will have your information and share about any events with you. We have a mentorship program at every level. If you're a resident, you can mentor a medical student. If you're attending, you can mentor a resident. You can join and tell us what your interest, and it's based on your time commitment. There's really no obligation of saying you have to meet with someone every month. It's just about it's organic mentorship. We have community project that we had people from back home who help us translate in Sorani and Bahdini, both dialects from back home. They were doctors back home and they help us translate. So there's a way to get engaged with that. And we have a scholarship funds, medical school is expensive in America. More expensive than medical school is for pre-med applying to medical school. Those MCATs are expensive. Those books are expensive. The application for the MCAT is expensive. So, and a lot of our Kurdish students don't come from impoverished background. So I think that's important. And again, the whole way to engage CAMA is really at your level of time, skills, resources. We have, depending on what you offer, we will have a place for you to join. But I think it's important to keep in mind that when a student who's a high school student who lives in somewhere and there's no Kurds around him who are in medicine, they go to the website, start scrolling and saying there's a platform for people like me to get mentorship. That's really what we were striving for, and for providing a pipeline for people to get the necessary help. Next. So the way to join us, is really go to the website. There's a lot of projects listed, a lot of paths where people come, and so CAMA./usa.org. And honestly, is investing in a network model on simply inspiring the next generation of Kurdish American doctors. It just takes from high school to become a doctor, official attending to work in hospitals between 13 to 16 years. So it's a long journey, but I think collectively we all can invest in improving the next generation. And hopefully in 10 years we'll meet here, the number will be like, doubled or tripled by then. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you very much, Dr. Kelly. And yes, we are, working, slow and steady to increase the number of, Kurdish doctors that we have. Right now we've had 28 matches. We have, around 30 students currently in medical school and some pre-meds. So we're excited to, double and triple the number of Kurdish American doctors. And that is really improved by the current, physicians and attendings. Joining, lending a helping hand, and it also helps, other attendings. So it just forms a community where everyone is connected. All right, I thank you very much for attending this conference. We were cognizant of your time and wanted to make everything as short as possible. Do we have any questions for any of our speakers or any questions in general?
I actually have one last comment before we end the meeting and divide into smaller groups. On behalf of the advisory board and everyone else at CAMA, I want to thank you, Siobhan, for putting such a wonderful meeting together. You single-handedly did all of this by yourself, including the presentation. So we very much appreciate what you've done for CAMA so far.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm battling a cold, so I've been kind of stuffy, but all right. Do we have any other questions, comments about anyone else?
I want to congratulate all of you for putting this organization together. I think it's very noble. I do believe that with unity, we will prevail and succeed. And clearly, embarking on high school is a best way to address it, to encourage the younger one from get-go. The earlier you intervene and get them encouraged, the better they'll be as they approach going to college. Because sometimes younger generation, the first 2 years of college, they screw around too much, and sometimes it's difficult to get their GPA up later on. So if you get them encouraged to go to medicine or health sciences center of any kind in high school, would be the best time to approach it. But we had American Kurdish Medical Association established in early 2000, but they were really more geared up toward outreach and capacity building than actually helping our own locals. So I do believe what you're doing is extremely important. And only way for us to excel and succeed, we've got to get stronger, build grassroots from bottom up, and you will prevail. Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Zibari. Yeah, we kind of felt the same way in the beginning. I went to school here. There was no one to look up to. I didn't really know any other Kurdish American doctors. Or so the point of the organization is to kind of have that cohesion and have that mentorship and start early on in high school and as pre-meds to kind of encourage and even give hope to students. I know from my community, people didn't have any hope that they could become doctors, just because they never knew anyone that did that or that went through that path. So we're trying to increase little by little, and starting with helping our IMGs this year too, trying to develop a solid foundation and then building on every year. Thank you very much to all the attendings and all the Kurdish physicians that are here today. And we hope that you join us to help mentor the next generation of doctors.